Hi everybody, this is Ellen. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this awesome little donut. I think it's pretty fabulous. Of course it's just kind of expanding on the other little treats that I've been making lately. I think it's pretty adorable. Looks like a nice little donut. This is the 2 Loom version. I will be working on a 1 Loom version if it's not out already. I think it'll be possible to do on 1 Loom with not too many complications. So I've made many donuts before I figure out exactly how I wanted them to be done, and this is ultimately the one that I liked. So I'll show you how to make this one. The sprinkles on top are of course optional. You can just have a plain donut like this. If you want to have these are little buttons. I guess I put these on some of my other my cupcakes and things, but I forgot to say where I got them, or I told you where I got them from, but this is actually the packaging for them. So Favorite Findings was what they were, and I found them at Hancock Fabrics, but I know I've seen them other places too, so but that's what they are. But if you want to have buttons or beads, if you do beads, something close to a 6/0 seed bead would be better, or a 5mm pony bead would be about the right size. This is 9mm, the regular one that most people have, and these are smaller. So, or you can just do wrap bands as well. That works just fine. So if we want to do a button or a bead, if it's smaller like these, you're going to want to figure out some way, obviously, to be able to thread the band through the button. I just use this piece of craft wire, but you can also, like if you have bread ties, you can strip the paper off of those and use that as your wire. Take your band, slide it through the little fold in your wire, bring it back together, and then stick both ends of the wire through whatever you're stringing, your bead or button, and just pull it down a little ways. And then take the wire off so then it's stuck on there. In total we need 6 of these. If you don't have wire, you can use thread, that works too, or yarn, just anything to kind of make this shape. Otherwise, let's see. Otherwise, if you don't want to do that, or you don't have access to all that stuff, we can do a wrapped band. 1 band to put on your hook. Wrap it around once, so it's kind of like a figure 8 pattern on there. Grab both sides and then wrap them around again. And this is the sprinkle color, and then the other color will be the top of your donut, the frosting part, and you'll just pull that band over, your sprinkle band over onto your frosting band. And you'll want 6. I did 6 of these. I mean, they are pretty evenly spaced around the outside. You can, of course, add more or less. That's really up to you, but I'm going to put 6 on this, so, or on the one I'm making anyways. Alright. So for the loom, it does not necessarily have to be set up in this pattern, because I'm actually going to kind of work up a little ways. We're going to be working in the larger hexagon, so here's the little hexagon, the starburst, like we normally would use for a lot of things. We're just going to work 1 step bigger. But I'm actually going to skip my bottom row anyways, because we're going to lay bands all the way around the bottom, and I just don't like picking them up off the edge of the pins. So you can work anywhere on your loom, just so long as you can get a hexagon pattern. So I'll drop some bands here. I'm just going to start in the middle. It's 1 band, and we're just going to drop them to the right. Oops. Just 1. And go up 2. And back up. And we're just going to come around to this side, back down to the bottom. Seems kind of complicated or like, oh, that's kind of a lot of mess, but if you look at it, as long as you have the 6 or the 6 pins or little hexagon in the center of all the ones that you drop bands on, then you're correct. So once you have that, then you know you're on the right track. So now, this is the frosting color. Sorry if I didn't say that. Now what we're going to do is lay bands. They're actually going to be, the first ones will be kind of the row where the sprinkle bands will be. So it's kind of right here on top. And we're just going to start that by, if you look at the middle here, we have the 6 pins. So from every pin, we're going to go out 3. So if we'll take this top pin, and this is 2 bands, by the way, and we're going to go out 3. But if you want to add sprinkles, this is when you would do it as well. So I just dropped 2 bands here. I'm going to go up, but this is where I'm going to put a sprinkle. So I'm just going to put 1 regular band, and then grab a sprinkle band. If you have a directional button, like this one is, you'll want it to point down, like that, and then 2 more bands that way. So we'll move over, we're still working off this hexagon, so move over to the next pin, and you're going to go out 3. So 2 bands, oops, like that. And the next one is going to be a sprinkle band for me. So out 1, and then my sprinkle. And then 2 more bands this way. And basically I'm just going to do this little pattern off of every pin around the circle. So it'll be 2 bands, out, then 1 band, and my sprinkle band, and then 2 more bands. And then do the same thing off of this pin. So 2 bands, 1 band, sprinkle band, and 2 bands. So 2 bands again, 1 band, sprinkle band, 2 bands, and then off this last pin here, the same thing. And then last 2 bands, like that. So basically, if you're familiar with some of my other patterns, this is kind of my kaleidoscope pattern. The outside edge, we just didn't do a perimeter banding for it. So we'll push these down in the middle, and then we're going to fill up the center with a starburst. 2 bands, and just start anywhere basically, and fill up this middle. These end up being right kind of tucked in, inside under, so I probably wouldn't do any sprinkles on these bands. But any of the other bands around the outside would be free game, I think. there's a lot of pins or a lot of bands on the pins, but it doesn't get too tight. So then once you have all of this, so this is these dropped bands around the bottom, one band. Everything up here is double banded. If you have the sprinkle bands, then they're kind of one normal band, one sprinkle band. So lastly, 2 bands, frosting color, and you're going to want to stretch them out. We don't want them to be tight. But then you're going to take that and put it as an end cap on the center here. Like that. So once we have that, we're going to loom out the top. So you'll go in through the center end cap, grab whatever band is on top, or 2 bands are on top, and just pull it back towards itself. And then you're going to do that all the way around the middle end cap. I'm not sure what that noise was. Like so. So once we've done out the entire center, we're going to use the bands that we flipped over around this outside to loom out our little, I don't know, I just call them chicken feet. But so you just want to pick a spot in one of these pins, go in and grab the 2 bands and loom them out towards the outside. Now, when you do the bands that have the sprinkles on them, you'll want to loom them over, but you also want to make sure that your sprinkle, comes onto the top side, because this is actually the top of our donut. So bring that up to the top. You can fix them after it's off the loom too, but it's just a little easier if it's done before. Just going to pull that up to the top and then loom out the rest of them. So you do the same thing in the next one. Top 2 bands, and the next 2, which should have a sprinkle band. And I found that if I have trouble getting in my case, the buttons up, if I pull this fairly tight, or pull the band tight, of course the bead or whatever that's on there is much easier to slide where I need it to go. Put like so. I'm actually really in love with these little buttons, because like they're the things you get because they're just so cute, because they're so tiny and adorable, but you really don't know what to use them for because they are so tiny. But I'm glad I found a use for them. So keep going around. Don't get stuck. One more here, one more set to go. like so. And once you have that, you want to see that this middle is stretched out really nice. If it's, I mean, mine are almost, they're touching the pins around the outside. If yours is still even closer on this pin, or I guess I'd say closer to this pin, you might, I'd still finish it because we can adjust that to make the hole a little bit bigger, but you want to make sure that this is loose, that it's pulled out and stretched, because that means that the hole in the center will be nice and big. That's why I had you stretch them out beforehand. So once we've got to here, we are going to do my puffing technique, I guess it's called now. We're going to use these bands that we dropped. So you go in through the bands that are on your pin, grab that band that's underneath, pull it up, both ends on your hook, and then pop off what's on the pin and replace it with that one band, just like that. And some of these only have a couple bands, or like these center ones here, they've got a lot of bands. So just make sure that you've got everything wrapped before you pull it off the pin. You stick your hook in through, grab that band, pull it up like you're going to loop it, secure both ends, and put it back on your pin. And you'll do this all the way around. Couple more here. Like so. So now I just have two bands wrapped around the pin on every side. So now our next layer is actually going to be the color of our frosting again, and we're just going to go around the outside of our hexagon and lay two bands. So two bands, just start, I haven't even turned my loom around, I'm just going to start laying bands all the way around the outside. And again, this is the color of your frosting. Like that. So we basically just put the perimeter on now after we did all the looping underneath. So what we're going to do is on the sides here you have the bands that we just laid, and then you have those two bands underneath. You're going to go under here and take those two bands that are on the bottom and flip them over the top of your pin. And you're going to do that all the way around. the entire donut. Some of them are easier to grab than others, but they're not too bad. When they stay over the pin. So now I went all the way around and flipped over the bottom two. So now what you actually have on your pin are 4 bands. And you're going to kind of want to push this down. And now we're actually going to flip over the bottom 2 bands on the sides. If you need to, if they're all kind of bunched over each other, just take your hook in there and spread them out so you can see the 2 bottom bands. I don't think it really matters if you don't quite grab the 2 bottom bands because they'll still be secure, but it's just has a little bit more finished look, but I know that I've not managed to do it perfect every time. So it's just the 2 bottom bands. And you're going to flip those over the top bands. And this is just so that where the bottom of our donut meets the top, we don't have such a huge noticeable section like right here. In the side of the donut we have this, and by eliminating the bottom ones we kind of reduce it so it doesn't look quite as noticeable. I can just say it's a filled donut, maybe. Maybe. Alright, so this is the donut top. So now we'll work on the sides. And I'm going to make this one a chocolate donut. This brown is actually Loom brand bands, which are actually part of the Rainbow Loom bands, but I just saw them at Walmart the other day and I didn't have this exact brown, so I grabbed it, but that's where these came from. So again, 2 bands, and we're just going to go all the way around the circle like we just did with the last row for the frosting. For those of you who like to know, we're going to do 4 rows like this. So this is the first row, and then I kind of have just the different way that I close it off, and then I'll show you how to adjust the center. So that's where we're headed. So once you have the bands all the way around, we're going to flip over the bottom 2, or the last frosting bands that are on the pins, and flip those over the top. Like that. Push your stuff down. And around again. So this will be row 2. Alright, so again, this time it'll be the bottom 4 bands that are going over the top, which is just the layer previous. Sometimes it get a little hard to differentiate, so instead of just grabbing them from the bottom and pulling them over, if you stick your hook in right underneath the band from before and just put your hook in there and then grab them that way and pull them over. Makes it a little easier to differentiate between the top and the bottom sometimes if you accidentally overlapped them. Or the hook doesn't want to grab all 4 bands. Like that. And again, push them down. So I'm going to do 2 more rows just like this. Flip over the bottom 4 bands. I will probably fast forward through that in editing. Once I have, this is the 3rd row, so once I'm done with the, or almost done with the 4th row, I will slow it back down to show you how I finished it off and closed it. So don't run away just yet. Got a little bit more to show you. Okay, so I'm finishing up the last few spots here for the 4th row. And once I get those over, I'll kind of push these down again. And we're actually going to do what we did with the frosting, or kind of the last row on the frosting there. We're going to want to flip the bottom 2 bands over the top. Just a little less bulky to work with in the center. So just the bottom 2 bands. That was not the bottom 2 bands. And there we go. So now all that should be left on the side pins is 2 bands all the way around. So now what we're going to do, take our hook, just pick a pin, stick it in there, grab those bands on your hook, go into the next pin over, pull those bands up on your hook, and then pull this part, the first part here on your hook, through the second part. Like that. Now you have this on here, you go in through the next pin and do the same thing. And kind of take notice of what this looks like right here. It's our little stitch. So you kind of remember, because we're going to use a couple of those later for securing the center. So just keep doing that all the way around. If you are silly like me and forget to flip over some bands, just go ahead and still do that. As long as things are still on the pins, it's a good chance you can fix it. But once it's off the pins, it's pretty hard to fix. Last one. And when you get to here, you'll notice there's kind of like a, and almost all the ones I've made, this is what it's looked like, so hopefully yours will look like this too. But you kind of have this long band right here, and then there's like this band that's kind of flipped over funny. But it's right in here, which is the first stitch. You can kind of see it looks like a little teardrop. That's where you want to put your hook under. Grab another band and pull it through everything on your hook. This is where we'll tie it off. Put both ends on your hook and make a slip knot. Like that. And then you can pull this off. And yes, it looks funny. But then all we need to do is, I'll unzoom a little bit. Take this and turn it over, or inside out rather, and you give it a little squish and you have a donut. It looks pretty fabulous. Now the center, a couple things we want to do, of course. I'm going to stretch this out a little bit more. Adjust things a little bit. So I think it looks pretty good like this, but of course you can tell the difference between these two donuts where this center is pulled down and this one, or this one is not pulled down and this one is pulled down. So to fix that, what I've been doing is on the bottom here we have those stitches that I said to kind of remember what they look like. If you take your hook, go up through one of them, doesn't really matter where. I usually do about 4 of these. I usually roll that in there too. Under there, you'll take your hook and you'll come up through, kind of in between where the starburst is. I just come up through there, take a band, put it on, pull it all the way through, everything on my hook, without snagging a bunch of other things. So now I have basically the donut is kind of trapped between. So you take your hook up and poke it up through the center this time. Grab the band that you have in your hand, loop it, pull everything down, and then make a slip knot. So basically what we're doing is attaching the center of the donut to the edge of the bottom of the other side of the donut, or the edge of the frosting to the bottom of the donut. And you just do that as many times as you think it needs to get the shape that you want. I'm going to say that definitely bands make a difference. These were different brands of bands. So the stretch that they have and the doubling effect that they have makes a difference, but you just want to go around as many times as you want to kind of make your donut look as good to you. So again, just go up through that last kind of stitch. Of course, not right next to where I just did it. Like that. Come up through kind of straight up from the bottom through the nearest little section there in the center where the starburst is. And I use the color of the donut part, or the cake part. Pull it through everything on your hook and come back up through the very center of the donut. Grab that band, pull it down, and make a slip knot. And usually it takes about 4 times, like I said, I think, to get it pulled down evenly on all sides. And then when you get to a point where you have enough, you think, stretching your donut out, if it kind of feels like it went flat, kind of puff it up by squishing the sides, like that. Those bands up here, you need to tuck them in. Of course, I did a boo-boo that I saw because I accidentally snagged it and put it into my other one, but these will just get hidden once you have all of them done and complete. Just stick your hook in through somewhere and pull them into the donut part. Sometimes you can just roll them under the edge, but of course snipping this one didn't help. Just go in and grab them, hide them on the cake part. But I still need like one more around to like the way it looks, so. But that is how I make a donut. I think it looks pretty cute. I know I tend to make things that are, if I make something and it's already been made, obviously making it different as possible is a priority because you don't want to copy anybody else. But I also know that I just tend to make things sometimes more difficult just to begin with, I guess. Not intentionally, of course, but I guess I just tend to make things that are a little bit more ornate. I like when they have a realistic appeal to them, or something that you would, when you're finished, even though it might have taken a lot and been frustrating at times, that when you're finished you look at it and you go, I absolutely love that, it was totally worth the time. And that's what I like about doing some of these that are just a little bit more advanced and kind of take a little bit more time. And plus I don't try not to cut out too much of what I'm doing so that you can see them. But there, perfect little donut center. Then you can either retuck these in or you can cut them off. It's really up to you. If you cut them off, just kind of pull them a little tight. And they'll slide back in. But like so. But I think those are adorable little donuts. I hope you enjoyed my tutorial. Like I said, I will be working on a one loom version as well, for those of you who only have one loom. And I definitely will have more tutorials soon. Always working on something, it seems. But I want to thank you for watching. I definitely appreciate it. If you want to show me pictures of the things that you make, you can check out my Instagram, which is at Crafting Fantastic, or my Facebook, which you can find by searching Crafting Fantastic or feelinspiffy on Facebook, because that's what I just said it was on. And of course, if you subscribe to my channel here on YouTube, then you will know when I have new tutorials coming out, which is always good to know. I'd love to see your pictures, so show them to me. I think it's fun. And thanks a lot for watching. I'll have more for you soon.